Welcome to day 11 of Daily December. Today we are reviewing The Rise of the Separatists sourcebook, an era sourcebook for the Clone Wars. Also, we will be referencing Collapse of the Republic, which is another era sourcebook, third era sourcebook. That's sort of a sister companion sourcebook to this one that focuses on, well, the collapsing of the Republic and the end of the Clone Wars. And so we'll constantly be making comparisons when we talk about each, which we'll talk about that one soonish. So, player options, species. We have 4 species. One is the clones, which is also in the other book in the exact same stat block. Mechanically, they're basically sort of like a human variant, which I don't mind the house rule of just having them be a human variant. I think it'd be like the 3rd or 4th one in the game if you did that. So if someone wants to play a clone, obviously they'd pick this, or if they just want to play a human that has a strong war background and they're also physically fit. There's a big emphasis on physicality. They even have a talent that helps them with some of their physical capabilities, and also a little bit of knowledge warfare help, which is to be expected. They're bred for war. Next, let's talk about Geonosians, which may be one of my favorite species, because Geonosians are these bug-like race that's sort of this hive mind or colony or whatever. There are many variations of drones to fulfill certain roles, and instead of going like the Lords of Nahada Nikto route, where there's like 5 distinctly different types of Geonosians, they decided to make them flexible in a sense like droids, like biological droids, really. Their stat block is similar to that, where they have a big chunk of starting points to make up for the fact that they have really low characteristics. Not to that extreme of droids, they don't have nearly as many points as droids, but they do have more than any other species I've seen so far. Even the Jawas and the Ewoks, which I recently mentioned, they have just a few more points than they did, and their stat block is 3 2s and 3 1s, so not quite as flexible as a droid, but still a lot of flexibility there. Also, keeping in line with their flexibility, the free skill rank, they just pick a rank, whatever they want. Just pick a skill rank. Typically, you get a skill rank of the game's choosing, or you get to choose between 2 kind of similarly themed ones. Nah, just pick a rank. They also get a really great assisting ability, because they are used to working together as a colony or hive or whatever you want to call it. They're really good at assisting people. They have a benefit when it comes to assisting people, which is equal to the Togruta from Force and Destiny Core, like pack hunters, so they get some help assisting people. They can assist better, but they have a beefed up version of that. Just an extra benefit is applied on top of it when they're assisting people. So great. Oh, and they fly, obviously, because of the wings. They can fly. What can't they do? I guess their well-rounded build might be on the weaker side compared to some other species, but now this is a really great species. I love them. Kaminoan, we've seen those before in the Engineer sourcebook. They're smart, have an emphasis on medicine, they're big on cloning and science and whatnot. And also they have this great ability that's both good for them and bad for them. They're expressionless, so when it comes to talking, they get a benefit, but also a penalty onto people that are trying to talk to them. So talking defense of sorts. I really wish every species had a weakness. Umbarans are kind of similar in that they're shadow dwellers. They live in the shadows, probably underground or something. They live in the shadows, and because of that, there's a bit of a penalty when they're working when like bright light or normal light. Bright natural light, such as direct sunlight, but also they get a little help in dealing with checks in darkness. And on top of that, they get a really unique benefit, entrancing gaze. Their gaze is very entrancing, I guess. That makes them good at multiple talking checks in a wide variety in a really nice, unique way. So yeah, all in all, a good, solid stable of species. Specializations, some of them were kind of hit or miss. I did a separate video on each. I'm not going to go into detail here. Watch those videos. We'll put up a playlist. 4 universal specializations, some kind of crappy, some are really good. I really love the Scavenger. The Republic Fleet Officer was a good idea, but it wasn't executed really well. Too hyper-specialized for my taste. Not even really great as a supplement, I would say. The clone stuff is amazing. It's part of a new career, the clone career. All their talent trees are so good. It makes me think that you probably shouldn't let anyone but a clone species pick this as a way of like limiting them, but I like the idea of, just a bounty hunter or a soldier or whatever in whatever other era or whatever. Someone with a military focus plays a clone officer, but it just has nothing to do with being a clone. Why not? The Jedi, they get 2 specializations as part of their career. You get 2 more from Collapse of the Republic and 3 more clones from Collapse of the Republic. Is there going to be another era sourcebook that gives us 2 more for the Jedi? I don't think so. I think that might be a weakness in the Jedi career to help balance out the fact that maybe the trees are supposed to be hyper awesome, I guess. Also, some of the trees are hidden behind or one of the tree in this book, and also one of the trees in Collapse are hidden behind a force sensitivity paywall. You need a force rating, an extra force rating, in order to start as a knight or a Jedi general, respectively, which you can do with a special rule from Collapse of the Republic, which is not in here, where you can raise your force rating at character creation. They should have had it in this book. That was really stupid, but it is a good rule. So, you know, you'll get that in Collapse. Oh, and signature abilities are also in Collapse. One each for each of these new careers. But yeah, that's all I have to say about the talent trees. Go watch the other videos for more thoughts. All 9 of them. And let's move on to force powers. So we got 2 force powers that none of them are new. We've seen them before, but they might be new to you depending on what core book you have. So we got Bind and Enhance. The Force and Destiny core rulebook has 8 powers, which includes these 2, so you're not getting anything new there. With Edge and Age, shoot, I don't have my book with me. We'll text it. We'll put some text. But anyway, Bind holds people in place, and Enhance enhances your physical capabilities. So a lot of brawn and agility help there. Let's talk about equipment. Overall, there's a big emphasis on standard clone trooper loadouts, especially weapons. This book has a bigger emphasis on the armor, but we also have some basic Jedi gear and all-around clone gear and that sort of thing. We got some a basic lightsaber, a Shoto, and a training lightsaber, and also the basic hilts of each if you want to build your own from scratch to make it cheaper. Collapse of the Republic has some other lightsabers, like the double-bladed is in there. And also, in order to make stuff cheaper, because this is a time period when lightsabers is going to be more common, and also clone gear. The clone stuff is kind of expensive, but if you're playing a clone trooper, what, you're going to have to save up to buy more? I guess you could do night level play or advanced play or whatever they call it in here. They have that rule in here where you just get extra starting experience and extra money, so you could purchase the standard clone loadout stuff. But also, there's a rule called standard loadout where for cheaper you can buy lightsabers or the clone weapons and armor, and it lists sort of this armor, this blaster, etc. There's a little bit of choice here. Depending on what type of clone trooper you are, there might be a variation in your equipment. And for a set amount of price, which you can get as starting equipment. You have to take some extra money, but you can get it. There's also a nice little chart for example issued equipment for certain mission types. So for a boarding action, planetary assault, reconnaissance, sabotage, or site defense, there are certain types of standard issue equipment that you could get. Even like an ATTE walker per squad, and also a rotary blaster cannon per squad for site defense. And also, you know, smaller, less ridiculous forms of equipment as well. So it makes it feel a bit more real. As a GM, you can just give it to players depending on the mission, and then take it away. The GM giveth, and the GM taketh away. What else do we got? There's some cool stuff. Like, I do love the scavenge clone armor. Scavenger, which there's a scavenger talent tree, takes a bunch of pieces of clone armor and maybe sells it to someone, and you could be like someone who tries to do like a stolen valor kind of thing with clone trooper, hodgepodge clone trooper armor. Like, you're like Eddie Murphy in Trading Places. You're hiding your legs so that it looks like you're all damaged, and you got a helmet with the blast shield down so you can't see anything, pretending to be blind or whatever. You got your little tin can jingling credits like, "For the Republic, please, for the Republic." I don't know, that's fun. So there's some basic Jedi gear, basic clone gear, and armor. There's more advanced armor and Collapse, as I said. We also have like 1 or 2 medals, which were, I think, more in the Age of Rebellion Soldier source book. One of those books, they had quite a few. You get 1 or 2 here to give you a sense of what a medal does for a person in terms of the stat improvements and whatnot, so you can kind of use that as a template to make your own. Fair amount of attachments. I kind of like the clone firing key, so a weapon can only be fired by a clone, which is kind of neat. Fair amount of vehicles. The AAT hover tank, which I always thought was really neat looking, is in here. About what you'd expect. Just a decent amount of equipment and vehicles to do a war campaign. In the Clone Wars, we even have some capital ships, like the Star Destroyer looking thing. That's in here. And really, with all the stuff in the equipment section, it's really not hard to just reskin this. The clone stuff is like Stormtrooper armor and weapons, or whatever. The precursor to the Star Destroyer is just an actual Star Destroyer, if you don't have a book that has that stuff. Flat cannons from Age of Rebellion Ace source book are in here. They're in this book as well. We also have a big section on lore of the 2 factions, the Republic, the Confederacy of Independent Systems and the different subgroups within that. It was nice to finally get it straight, because we don't really know much about them or what they want. It was kind of interesting to dive into the culture or groups of cultures and just to get a sense of what it's like. And we have, of course, enemies that are tied to the different factions. Dooku, Asajj Ventress, Grievous is in here, young General Obi-Wan Kenobi is in here. I did a video on a deck, which is most of the, if not all of the adversaries in this book is in a deck of the adversary deck in a video there, so you can check that out for more information. I'm not going to go into detail. Planets, we have 4 planets with 4 pages each. Nice even spread, no planet is favored. They're all planets that most people who don't even know Star Wars that well might be familiar with if they've seen a movie or two. Kamino, Geonosis, Naboo, and Tatooine. So your buddy who barely even knows what a Star Wars is but saw a movie, you could be like, oh, remember that one time the face mask guy fought train spotting in the rain? Oh, that's where we are? Oh, okay, with the long neck, Close Encounters people. Okay, I get it now, that's where we are. Cool. Let's do this. It's nice to have that context of seeing it on the big screen, and so it's just going to be easier to remember planets in general. I think Star Wars in general, and this game especially, suffers from a breadth over depth problem, especially when it comes to the planets. But all familiar planets, all important planets to the Clone Wars, they each get a modular encounter that feels strongly tied to that planet. Geonosis, we have a scavenging mission, after the Battle of Geonosis. Kamino, there's a training danger room kind of scenario where the clone troopers are trained. There's an encounter around that. Obviously, you could always reskin them to put them wherever you need to, a training facility on a ship or whatever, but they feel really strongly tied to the planet itself. You kind of want to just leave it where it is for the most part, unless it really fits your campaign, and of course we have a mission for the other 2 planets as well. What else do we got? Rules, we got more rules. We got tips for enhancing Nemesis combat, like bosses, which is stuff you'd find in basically every GM guide or just core rule book. Maybe give them an initiative slot at the end of the round in addition to their normal one and some other stuff like that. Droid phalanxes is a brand new rule, which I absolutely love. The idea is that the droids sort of attack slowly in columns, constantly pressing forward, and so we have rules to help bring that to life. But also, any time you're faced with enemies that are sort of attacking in waves, this works really well. If you're trying to hack a door to get it open and they're constantly coming at you, or even in a big mass combat like the Lord of the Ring, or any type of medieval kind of battle, Avengers Endgame, you got the 2 masses just slamming into each other, and there's bodies and fights all around in all different directions. You could possibly get sort of overwhelmed, and then a group member has to come save you, or there's penalties or bad stuff that happens because you're overwhelmed. There's mechanics for all of this, which is really great. Also, I think this might bring to life a stampede fairly well, with some tweakings and reimagining, but there's a lot of flexibility here. At the very least, you just have another type of combat encounter just to spice things up, which is great. Also, we have the Fighting in Squads and Squadrons rule, which is from the Age of Rebellion GM kit. And the basic idea is to use your leadership check to gather a group of minions, either in their ships as a squadron or just ground minions in a squad. And with that leadership check, you can put them into a formation, so like a defensive or offensive, or maybe have them do comm silence or do a search party, and you get some benefit from that. We also tweaked the rules slightly in our game so that instead of minions helping a leader character, it was sort of all of us in formation, going through the base, doing support fire or skirmish mode or digging in or whatever. So with slight tweaks, you get a bit more flexibility out of it, and they have ways of spending and advantages and threats and all that on these types of checks, and slightly different formations, obviously, for squadron than squad. Lots of adversaries, mostly droids, a ton of droids. If you have any kind of droid-centered enemy campaign, regardless of era, just make up your own droids and reskin them using these. Some big droid rebellion, and the rebels and the Empire have to team up to fight against it. Make up your own stuff. It doesn't matter. Oh, good, we're done. So, who should buy Rise of the Separatists? Well, if you're making a Clone Wars campaign, obviously, soon as you get a core rulebook of some kind, get this. And also, if you're doing like an Old Republic era campaign where there's big emphasis on Force users running around, and you can reskin the clones as like Sith troopers or Republic troopers or that sort of thing, this is a great way of doing that. And yeah, it's just a really great all-around supplement with a little bit of reskinning It can be in any era, but of course great for clones. And if you do want to have a Clone Wars campaign, I would definitely buy this one before Collapse of the Republic in almost all cases, unless it really is specifically at a time when the war is, at its end, and there's bloodshed all over the galaxy and things are kind of darker. Then Collapse of the Republic works best. But we'll talk more about Collapse of the Republic when we get to it. For now, this is a really great book, worth the money. And that is it for today. If you like this video and want to see more, come back tomorrow. We got a new video every day for all of December. See you then.